Oh,
Mine said that too. Oh, no, it's recording.
now it's recording. Now we are recording. Hello, everyone. Hello,
Recording.
Sarah
Hello.
Telfer, Patsy Hughes, Renata Lanzoni.
Hi.
We are here. We should be 6, but we are only 4, but we are enough, aren't we, ladies? Okay,
Absolutely.
so we are going to be, it's not going to be exactly an interview. We are just going to talk, each of us, about our work. And the main things for me that I would like to know about you and that I would like to talk about me is how did we start writing? Why do we write? What keeps us writing or what doesn't keep us writing in some cases? What are the hurdles? And to maybe we can read each of us a little bit of our work and share with our huge audience. I'm sure we will have a huge one eventually. What we do, and encourage others to write, because I think personally, I think it's the most amazing career in the world, whether one makes it properly as a professional or just for fun. I think is the most amazing. It makes me really happy just doing it. So is any of you does any of you want to start?
Well, I could start if if everybody's okay with that.
Yes,
Sure,
Sarah,
Sarah, go ahead.
go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what makes me want to write? So this was a really
First
very
of all,
good
Sarah,
question.
you have to say who you are and what you do.
Oh, yes. That's useful. And that's one of the reasons I don't like talking about myself, because I very rarely introduce myself. I just sort of write poems and put them out there. I never say that my name is Sarah Telfer and that I've written my first poetry collection called Under My Bed. So I very rarely like talking about myself. But then when I think about it, I realize, gosh, why do I like to write? Well, I'll answer that question to say that it's life in all its glorious forms. I mean, the low tide at sunset, that makes me write. The sparrows tweeting in the shrubbery that I just passed today on my way back from the hairdressers, that makes me want to write. The magpie right at the top of the tree, which is just outside our garden, it's quite often comes to the top of the tree and tweets away in its own way. And that makes me want to write. How I feel emotionally about my teacher growing up, that makes me want to write. Something my grandchild said the other day that made us both burst into laughter. We just couldn't stop talking. We aren't laughing. So the winter wind, the autumn leaves, I mean, everything about life is just, these are all the things that I want to think about, talk about, and write about. So that's what I'm inspired by, to be perfectly honest.
Can I not interrupt exactly, Sarah, but interject?
Yeah.
But lots of I loved your book. I think it's very original.
Thank you.
And lots of this, I mean, the title is very appropriate because it's such an intimate thing. And I love you are talking about certainly very poetic subject matter at the moment. The leaves in the trees and the birds and blah, blah, blah. But lots of your poetry is sort of the poetry of the quotidian, the poetry of your memories. And that's one of the things that really, really got me. I remember, I can't remember which one it is, but one of the poems about your, I just found it. The alpha male poet about your dad.
Oh, alpha male, yeah, about
I
my dad.
My dad, the hero. I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like that, because I really enjoyed writing that. And that poem just came straight out, straight onto the page. It very rarely happens but that one just came straight out into the page. I then rewrote it because some bright spark decided that I needed to write about a Greek god, you know, so I shoved that in as well. But when it came in its original form, it was brilliant. And that's the sort of things I like to write about, how people make me feel. So I want to write about how that person made me feel. And then I want the person reading that poem to understand how they made me feel. And I want to make you feel like that as well. So that's what drives me quite a lot of the times. So I'm aware I've been talking, but I haven't heard. I don't want to be blowing my own trumpet, not hearing what's going on with everybody else.
And we need to be careful with the time, because as you know, we only have like unfortunately, I don't pay for Zoom. I am a stranded author, penniless author. So we only have 40 or I think 40 minutes in total. So, but that's let's focus on that particular thing. What makes you write? Unless Patsy or Renata want to focus on something in particular, let's focus on that. So what about you, Patsy?
Me? Well, I've always liked writing ever since I was a little girl. I loved reading, and so I wanted to write and tell stories in the same way that I enjoyed the stories. I think storytellers are really important. And it's about communicating your own experience, which I think is what Sarah was saying about the world, and sharing with other people. You know how you experience the world as a human being. I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah.
But you are particularly interested in relationships, aren't you, Patsy? Or is that just one of the many interests?
Well, I am interested in relationships. I suppose they make the world go round, don't they? And my book, that The Next Girl, which is that one there, is about a controlling relationship, and it's set in the 70s. And I wanted to capture that era because I didn't feel that many people had actually written about the 70s. We've had the 60s, we've had the 80s, but we haven't really had the 70s. And I think the 70s was a really important time when people lived out the 60s, if you like, and the fallout from the 60s happened in the 70s. So I wanted to capture that, and I've been told I have, which is really nice. And by people who've lived then, like me. And also I wanted to talk about a controlling relationship and how the particular heroine in this gets sucked into a relationship without realizing that she's in a controlling relationship until she's been quite damaged by it. And it's all about how she gets out of it in the end. And people have said to me that they didn't really understand why people stayed in these relationships until they read my book, which is really nice, because it's quite hard to get out of them when you're in them, especially if you're in so deeply before you've realized what's happening. And I think that happens with a lot of people, especially if you're with a very charismatic person, which usually these people are, charming and charismatic, and then they kind of take you over. So yeah, and also one of the things I've recently learned is that 1 in 2 women are in a controlling relationship. No, 1 in 3 women are in a controlling relationship. Those are the figures, and 1 in 5 men, which is really, really. I went to a talk about it, and I thought, gosh, it's a really important subject. And the number of people who said to me when I've been selling my book and the craft fairs, oh, I've been there. I know that one. I was in one for 30 years. I didn't, I got out finally, and it's just so sad that these women's lives have been so blighted,
Well, it's interesting that, as I have told you separately, Renata and Patsy, that, and you haven't met each other, have you?
No.
And you, I mean, obviously Renata is a far harsher book that that Patsy is in a way a bit tame, because it's in England, is the 70s. But Renata, I'm not going to talk about your book. I from the very your books, because you have two more books, which are but a very different type. So tell us about your writing. Why did you write Shattered Moon, and Oxford in an afternoon and
Okay.
Packer
Well, they're three completely different books, to be honest. And so I start with the easy ones. So
Can
Oxford
you
in one
speak a little
afternoon.
bit louder, Renata? A little bit.
Okay, I said they're three completely different books. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's sort of quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start with the easy one. So Oxford in one afternoon was because I've been doing some tour guiding, and for me it was important to know and to learn things about tour guiding, to learn about Oxford and to learn about the history. So I did a lot of research, and I was writing notes down also because I go away for a long period of time when I can. And I thought, when I come back after a few months, I'll forget about it. So I need to write my notes so I can read up a bit. And then I thought, well, actually, let's beef it up a little, put some pictures in, because it's something I would like to read, and maybe somebody else would like to read, and just take it with them and just go and discover their city, because we don't know our cities usually. We go abroad and or somewhere else and we learn all about these other places we go and visit, but we don't really know anything about our own place. So that's how it came about. It was really notes for me, and then
I just want to
there.
say that also something that they don't know and your viewers don't know is that you are Italian by birth.
I am indeed.
So you speak, how many languages do you speak?
Just a few, but I've been in the UK for a long time. I speak a few, but not many. Come on. Yeah, so I've been in the UK a long time. So Oxford is my hometown, really long enough for it to be anyway. So that's how that one came along, and that's been quite well received, and it's quite interesting because the people that received it the best really are people they are from Oxford itself, and they look through it and I thought, oh my god, I didn't know that, or I didn't know this was here, or which is quite interesting. So it's quite nice for me. And then the other easy one to talk about is my backpacking guide, because I do travel a lot, and I travel for a long time on a very light luggage. So when I pack a lot, I pack about 5 kilos. So it's a very small backpack, and I can travel for a year or however long I want to travel on that. And I'm never short of things, and I always have enough, and there's nothing in my bag that I don't use. So I do meet a lot of people while I travel, and they're always a bit surprised that I don't have these massive bags that they drag around all the time. And so we go through the whole analysis of what they're carrying around, and it's quite an interesting thing. So I thought, well, I just, instead of repeating myself and what I've got in my bag and why I only got this and why isn't enough, then I'll write it down so that you can read it and go with it. So that's how that other one came about. So yes, my bag is super small, but I've got everything in there that I need. So it's quite interesting. Which I can go to the toilet with it on my back easy. I don't have to worry about that. So, yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's the easiest thing ever. Yeah, so going back to the harder one is on the same line as Patsy's. Really is a novel, and is about real experience. So it's a true life, and it's about domestic violence and how these relationships come about, and how you get sucked in and you don't even know how you're actually in one until somebody nudges you and say, well, actually this is not really normal, and all of a sudden you see the light and you think, oh my gosh, what has happened to me, and what have you allowed this person to do, and then the reason why I wrote that, it was a bit, again, it started off as being is a diary, and I want to make sure that I know about this, and I'm not going to forget, because this is the kind of relationship. What this relationship happens is your brain tends to forget, or wants you to forget what hurts, because it hurts. So that's why you keep going back, and as well as all loads of other biochemical reasons why these relationships are difficult to break. But that's what I didn't want to forget. I wanted to write it down. And I also, and from there, it was, I want other people to know that it's okay to talk about it, because the reason why these things go on for so long is because the nature of the relationship, you isolate yourself, as well as being isolated by the perpetrator. You actually isolate yourself because it's a shame. You know, you feel ashamed, or you feel like you can't explain why you are staying, and you can't talk about it. You don't want to hear your friends say, oh, but just leave the damn person. You know, you don't want to hear that because you can't explain why you can't do that. So you just cut yourself off. And I thought, you know, this shroud of shame needs to be coming down, and we need to talk about it. And the same as with Patsy, you know, ever since then, every person I've spoken to actually said, well, I had an experience like that. I was amazed because I never seen a light like this. You know, for me, it was like, oh my God, you know, I didn't realize there's so many people. But that's exactly why, because people don't talk about it. And I think it's so important. And, you know, the people that do talk about it, they're lucky. They've gone out. And a lot of them haven't. And I wrote it particularly because when I was going through that, it would have been incredibly useful for me to be able to read something like that, to feel less stupid, less lonely, less, you know, out there on my own. So it would have really, really, really been useful for me. So I hope it would be useful for somebody else. So
I just want to point out that it is a real story, but it sorry, I got this laptop standing on something a little bit flimsy. I hope the recording didn't stop now. It reads like a novel, totally like a novel. And the fact that it's set in Sri Lanka, isn't it? Because I read it.
It's set in Sri Lanka because
it's set in Sri Lanka, and the man is a Sri Lanka. So it's something I'm coming to in a minute, because both our books are about interracial relationships, cultural shock. Yours far.
Yes, although yes, it is, and it's a setup. You know, if you want to find out about Sri Lanka, you can read it, and you there's the real setups, etc. But that doesn't mean that the abuse happened because it was there. You know, it happens everywhere.
No, I appreciate that, but I think cultural differences accentuate that type of problem, because it's you are speaking with your partner two entirely different languages. Even if you are talking in English, you are it's not your appreciation, Renata, you say?
I don't, difficult to say. What I found that the difference probably is the environment around. So there is a lot more of a culture of not interfering and not wanting to know. So you are out there on your own pretty much. Whereas I think certain situation, if you found yourself in them in an open place in England, you probably found some help. Whereas in an open place there, people walk away. They leave you there.
I think that is true, but I was thinking more from the point of view of the actual relationship.
I think relationship itself, it's not. I don't think it would matter so much if the language is the same or not.
In my experience, it makes a big difference. Because I've been married 4 times, or been with a long-term partner 4 times. And particularly my second husband, and I'm talking even about social class, education, and environment. My second husband belonged to a social class very different to mine. Mine was higher, very highly educated. His social class was working people. And for example, there in Colombia itself, there are certain sort of ideas and sort of prejudices about what the role of a man and the role of a woman should be. For example, the mother of the husband of one of my sisters, of a much lower social class, the man would be riding around on his horse, and the woman would be holding from the tail of the horse, holding the burden, carrying the burden.
Wow.
My mother-in-law from my second husband, who was a woman that I absolutely adored and the most wonderful woman you can imagine. She would sit on the stairs of the house while we, all the rest of the family, particularly the father, sat at the table and ate after she had been cooking and cleaning and doing stuff since 4 in the morning. And that makes, in my relationship with my husband, sense that he was extremely good husband because he didn't beat me up. He didn't drink. He wasn't unfaithful. And he treated me okay. And the reality is that he put me down constantly. And my possibilities of, in many other ways, he was very supportive, but my possibilities of me getting out of that position as a woman in the household was very different if we had been belonging to the same social class. And once again, in my culture, he was an excellent husband. Only when I came to England and I have psychiatric treatment and stuff for a nervous breakdown, I was pointed out, well, this is not right. Once again, I've been with 2 British husbands or partners. And there are still aspects of the language of intimacy, the language of love, that are incredibly different, even though I have been nearly 40 years in and I can communicate pretty well and have been able to communicate pretty well for many years. So I tend to disagree with you. I think it makes an enormous, I think there is a clash of culture, and I still find sometimes very difficult certain types of communication with my partners.
As far as the abusive relationship, I think it wouldn't matter. As far as the additional issues, that yes, there's a different culture, and of course women are not supposed to be equals, and of course you from a Western world are more emancipated and therefore not really accepted so much. That's certainly, I expect it aggravated the situation. I don't think it would have been an easier, good situation anyway, but it definitely probably pushed it a little bit further into the unacceptable, and therefore I'll smack you because I would never accept that. So possibly.
Yeah. Okay. We have only 8 minutes left, so I'm going to talk a bit about my work. And my work is precisely one of the things I discovered recently is that I've written so far 4 novels, but only one is being properly published, and apparently it's improperly, as I mentioned earlier. It still needs work. But all my work is always having to do with redemption, rebirth, and the possibility of taking charge of our lives, transformation during our lifetime. And I think in a way, the theme of abuse and controlling relationships is very pertinent regarding this, because it's if we can't take control of our lives, and we all understand, and in that respect, you both have in a way are carrying the same torch as I am, because my torch is you can take control of your life, you can change your destiny, you can change what you are. However, in my case, my novel, the controlling relationship happens the other way around. And precisely the effects of culture and race have a big bearance on it. I don't think you in Europe probably really realize, well, I don't know about other countries. I know certainly in Colombia, white people, and particularly British people, can be American, but not quite. But white people, Europeans, and particularly British people, have already a level of superiority over us that is very difficult. I mean, for God's sake, Jesus was according to us blonde and blue-eyed, but I think it was according to you until not long ago. But there is a stigma, even in my country, that is not overtly racist about having a dark skin. And I know, as much as the English society is quite open, and in fact, the exotic has been very attractive since the Victorian times, and little by little becoming something that is attractively exotic and not attractive, and not exotic like just a monkey that you put on a cage to watch, but attractively exotic. We Latin women are supposed to be passionate, or Latin men, passionate, sexy, blah, 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 blah. So there are stereotypes and stigmas attached to your race and your country and your culture. So my protagonist is an illegitimate outcast. And as an illegitimate outcast, he literally feels he hasn't got the right to be alive. It was wrong for him to be born. And once again, those things are psychologically, and it's like a historical psychology, comes through your grandparents, comes to your parents, to everything, and is deeply ingrained in your psychology. And everything you do, everything you are, becomes permeated by that, and it's like impossible to get out of this. So he got in a relationship with a woman that he considers like a goddess, because she's white and absolutely gorgeous. She's wealthy. He's not handsome. He's ugly. He's a nerd, and then this becomes an abusive relationship also, but it's the woman who treats him very badly. And I started writing this novel. Initially was a novel and became a trilogy, because I was desperate to find perfect love. I'm an idealist. And I thought there must be a way to find it. And when I heard about laws of physics, thermodynamics, and quantum physics, superconductivity, and read about the history of physics and the development of physics from classical physics, very determined, very static, if you like, moving into quantum physics that gives us amazing things like the action at a distance, the creation of our own reality, blah, blah, blah. I thought, okay, this is another way to support my beliefs. So that's why I started writing. And I was very much platonically in love with one of my neighbors. And he was in a very bad, controlling relationship, very controlling, absurdly controlling. And it was the woman who controlled him. And I took him as my model, and created a fictional relationship. I made him, I changed him completely, a fictional character. And then it became the novel. And then I started seeing in my own life how I have been moving from one place to another in my own relationships, in my own life. So we don't have much time to say much about it. But Sarah, I just want to point out before we go, and then we wrap it up. Each of you can say one thing. This is my book, Entropy. This is Renata, Renata's sort of novel. Sorry, I don't have here the Oxford one. Have you got it there, Renata?
No, it's okay. Don't worry.
Which is a shame. It's such a beautiful book. This is Sarah's. And this is Patsy's. And I am for the good girl. Show us some of the pictures inside.
This is the black and white one, so it's not as nice. Yeah,
the color one is absolutely.
The color one is a lot better.
Absolutely,
yes, much better.
Anyway, I am attempting, for people who are watching us, I am attempting to help these authors to come out of their shells, to come out of being stranded authors, and at the same time to help myself. And I don't know if any of you wants to say something else about anything.
Can I just say
Yes,
that, sorry, Sarah, the writing is the easiest part. The marketing is the hardest bit.
Yeah, we
Agreed.
didn't get into that. What are the hurdles? The bloody marketing.
Yeah, the writing easy.
Yes.
The marketing is rubbish. Thank you very much, Patricia, for arranging this. And I've really enjoyed it. And I'll be looking at your books, that's for sure.
Great.
I found it fascinating, actually.
Great,
It's great to hear how people write and, you know, what fires them off. Yeah.
A little, these are the rock potato and the pinging cat that is what we just produced with my group. And the pigeon tails. They would be perfect in Christmas presents. Anybody who is looking out there, perfect Christmas presents. Look.
Perfect. You're a good marketer.
Sorry?
It will definitely be